What is going on, friends, and welcome back to the Minecraft Hub channel. So today we are looking at the mega base progress on Hermitcraft Season 8, and it's been a couple weeks since we looked at it, so there have actually been some new projects that have been started and some old projects which have gotten a lot of work done on them, so today we are going to check them all out. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like on it, and if you're new to our channel, hit that subscribe button. We cover all things Hermitcraft, Minecraft, including updates, mods, and so much more, so go ahead and check out the rest of our content. Let's jump right into today's video. So first up today, Hypno has actually started working on his base and he's built a giant mushroom. I think this base looks really good so far. He's done a great job of keeping a very natural design and not making it just a straight mushroom like they naturally spawn. He also had to use a lot of carpet on the outside of it because once he built the top of the mushroom, he was having trouble with mob spawning because it made the sides very dark. He has a lot of ideas about things that he wants to do with the mushroom, maybe creating windows out these sides, but he's also started work on the interior in his most recent episode, so hopefully we see what his actual plans are very soon. The inside of the mushroom is much bigger than it seems from the outside, and he has a lot of room to work with. Right now he's creating different platforms out of spruce wood and moss, and I think it looks really good so far. He's doing a great job of putting the interior together, and I can't wait to see the finished product. He's done a lot of glowberries and leaves and things like that to make it very natural, and it looks great. Next up, we are checking out iJevin, who, as we said before, was creating a big slime hole all the way down to bedrock, and of course this is a massive project because of how big the hole actually is that he's building. So he had some help from Tango and actually built a giant sorting system in order to handle all the materials that are going to be dug out of the hole. And then in a live stream of Hermits helping Hermits, a bunch of the Hermits came, including Cupban, Zombie Cleo, Joe Hills, and Suma, and they helped him dig some of the hole down, hopefully getting to bedrock very soon. This is definitely a massive project and is going to take a lot of time, but luckily the Hermits are helping each other out a lot this season, so that'll speed up this project a lot considering it is a huge radius circle, and I really can't wait to see it once he starts filling it with slime and everything that he's going to do with it. Next up, Iskall and Etho don't quite have a mega base yet, but they are doing some more building into the side of this mountain. Etho has built a massive control room, and Iskall has been working on this build here, which houses some villagers and has some trading options available. Definitely a cool little hole, but I can't wait to see what Iskall and Etho do later on. Next up, we are looking at Joe Hills and Zombie Cleo. Joe Hills built this little smithing hut right here, and it houses some furnaces, but this is of course not their mega base. Their mega base plans have been laid out here and built mostly by Zombie Cleo. This entire thing will be a huge castle, and I really can't wait to see this done. It looks like a massive project, and even though they know what they're doing, it still looks very confusing to them as well. Zombie Cleo went ahead and gave us the model of what they're basing their castle off of, so hopefully it turns out looking very cool. I'm very excited to see that final product. They are both great builders, so it's very exciting to see them work together, and hopefully they turn this into an amazing build on the Hermitcraft server. Next up, we are looking at the Bodum Town, and of course, as you guys probably know, they are creating a gigabase between Mumbo, Impulse, Scar, Green, and Pearl, and they're combining all their bases into a gigabase. It should be very cool to see the final product, and even the meeting of them talking about it was absolutely hilarious.
In this bottom hole, under the bottom pole, I propose a bottom goal. Let's all merge our bases into the first ever Hermitcraft Giga Base.
So of course those plans are going to be very interesting, but they're doing a lot of that work off camera and talking about how they're exactly going to design a mega base between all of them. Of course they all have their own ideas so far. Mumbo is of course building this incredible mountain. Impulse is making a factory. Green is also making a mountain and combining it with Mumbo, and that was already a plan, but now he's combining it with everybody else as well. We're not too sure what Pearl is doing yet, although she is terraforming a mountain, and Scar is still working on his mega starter base, so we really haven't seen his mega base ideas yet either. But here's Pearl's mountain, and this thing is looking absolutely amazing. She did a probably 15-hour terraforming project with a lot of jungle wood, moss blocks, grass, and so much more to make this mountain. She said it was a very long process, and I can't imagine building a mountain of this scale, so I assume it definitely was. She basically terraformed the 1.18 mountains all the way into this episode, so it's looking extremely cool already. She's not too sure of how exactly she's gonna put the structure on top of this mountain, and I assume those plans may have changed slightly with the actual gigabase plans being put into place. So I'm very excited to see how she builds her structure on this huge mountain. She also talked about maybe combining with Cubfan in the future because Cub is directly behind her, of course with the dripstone ravine, so hopefully that combination looks very cool as well, and you can actually see part of Cub's base right in the bottom frame of this video. It's definitely a very different style of terraforming than Mumbo and Green's terraforming that they've done so far, so it'll be very interesting to see how exactly they go about combining their bases for the actual Giga base. And next up we are looking at Scar, who has supposedly finally finished his mega starter base, and it's absolutely insane to look at. This is definitely the craziest starter house that I've ever seen, and the fact that he's still calling it a starter base makes absolutely no sense to me because this thing is absolutely massive and he's been working on it for hundreds of days so far. It's definitely a very cool build, and he's put a ton of details and work into it, especially with the amount of copper he's had to acquire for this build, and the amount of deep slate for it as well. Scar has always been a huge consumer of resources, so it's interesting to see how many resources he uses even just for the starter base, and if this is his starter house, how big will his mega base be, especially now that it's being combined with the rest of the Bodum town people. And of course now we have to look at Green as well. He hasn't done as much progress as he would have liked to on his mega base yet, but right next to the G train here he has a huge mountain that he's planning on terraforming. He's already done the front of it and laid the ideas for the center of it, but he hasn't finished terraforming it yet, and neither has Mumbo if we're talking about the backs of their builds. And last but not least of the Bodum town people, we have Impulse, who has a huge factory and has done an incredible amount of work so far. This is probably the most developed megabase so far on the server, and he's already been putting a ton of work to it and actually taking it vertical already. After putting these smoke towers, or whatever you call them, on top of this building, he actually said that this side of the base is actually done. Of course, there's still a lot of base left to work on, and he'll have to combine it with Mumbo's and the rest of the bases as well, so this style should definitely be a very interesting feature to include with the rest of the bases, considering they're mostly terraforming projects so far. Moving on from the Bodum town, we have to look at Tango, who's making some huge moves inside of the terraformed mountain that BOO made. He's not too sure if this is even going to be his official base yet, but considering the amount of work he's doing inside of it, it's safe to say that he's probably going to be doing a lot more here. He dug out a huge section of land underneath the mountain and built an incredible statue named Fifi the Destroyer. This thing is absolutely terrifying and, as BOO said, absolutely disgusting. But this statue should be able to protect the Big Eye Club storage system that Tango has also built underneath Fifi the Destroyer. This is a huge storage system that is actually dwarfed by the statue that Tango built, but it should hold all the items that the Big Eye Club will need. Next up, we are looking at Tinfoil Chief, who is actually working on his mega base now and building up a huge tower on this section of the ocean that he's got marked off. His original idea of where to put it was moved because of where Green's was going to go, but now that he's got it set, he can build this thing up and actually reach the potential that it had when he started it back in Hermitcraft Season 7. This was the base that he was going to build then, but now he's working on it again because he didn't quite get to finish it, so it definitely should be very interesting to see the final product of this build. I'm super hopeful that he's able to get it done this season because I'm very excited to see the final design, and I can't wait for it to be finished later up this season. He's obviously switched up the design a little bit considering he's using deep slate, but as he said before, this was supposed to be the design of Season 7. He's just changing it up a little bit with the blocks he's actually putting down. Next up, Wells Knight has actually taken some time away from building all his farms and creating the Yes Wings Club to start work on his megabase. This is in his creative world, and he's kind of showing off what his idea for the megabase actually is. This is just the start of it. He's going to do a lot more, but he wanted to show off the idea that he's having currently, which is some bridges around a giant floating island, and he's fortunately started work on the Hermitcraft server by building the outline of the base. Having built floating islands before, I know that this is a very hard project and is going to take a lot of time, so I'm very excited to see the final product of this, and especially the final design plans that he has for what's going to go on top of it and around it. The outline is already showing how big this is going to be though, so it's definitely going to take a lot of time to be able to fill in all the stone and everything that's going to go onto the sides of it before he even builds the bridges. Next up, we are looking at XB Crafted, who has finished up the glass dome and started adding a lot of the details into the build. He has a lot of copper in here, which looks great for now, but he is going to let it weather and turn into the greenish blue that it is, so that should look very cool as well once it's finally finished up its weathering process. The dome is looking amazing though, and he's put a lot of work into it as well. Even these sides here that you can see completely changed by the end of the episode and were filled in with water. The middle of the build he dug out into a large bowl, and the water kind of flows into that, but the center of it is still empty and covered up by all this moss and the pathed dirt. Next up, Cubfan has been doing a lot of work on the canyon lands, including creating a nether portal room, which he made mostly out of blackstone and deep slate, but it's looking amazing so far. He's filled in these sides with lava to give it a real nether feel and make it a very dark and scary room, but it's very safe still because it has all the chains keeping you from jumping straight into the lava. He's keeping a similar dark nether theme throughout his whole base, and he actually built a super smelter as well, which should take care of all of his smelting needs. In his latest episode, he turned this whole room into a Soul Sand Valley theme, which is looking very cool, so I'm very excited to see the final product of the canyon lands, especially if he decides to combine his base with the back of Pearl's base, but we'll have to wait until Pearl's base is actually finished before anything like that can happen. Last but not least, today we are looking at Gemini Tay's Woodland Palace, and this thing has come a long way since the last time we looked at it a couple weeks ago. She has built all the walls now, the roofs are coming in nicely, and she actually went ahead and finished up the roof in her latest episode. As great as it is to be able to fly straight up out of your base, it always looks better if you put a roof on top of it. That is all that we have for today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to drop a like down below, and if you're new to our channel, hit that subscribe button as well. And go ahead and let me know down in the comment section down below what your favorite mega base is so far on the Hermitcraft season. I know that there are a lot still in progress and a lot not built, but so far there have been some that have made extraordinary progress, including Mumbo, Impulse, and even Scar if you're talking about his mega starter base. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.